Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of the Lovecast. You're listening to episode 145, and this one's going to be entitled, Why Jesus Disappointed So Many People. Yes, let me repeat that. You're listening to episode 145, and this one's going to be entitled, Why Jesus Disappointed So Many People. Yes, we're on a little bit of we're touching in, we're really kind of getting into some spiritual things, I believe that all of life, my personal understanding is that all of life is spiritual. Everything that we talk about, from mental health to physical health, like, to me, everything, my understanding is that everything originates at the level of, if we're going to use quantum science language, everything originates. We know this from breakthroughs in quantum mechanics, that everything is a derivative. The physical universe is a derivative of an unseen field that exists everywhere and nowhere. It's kind of this unseen, all energy in the universe emanates from what is called the field, the quantum field. In quantum science, they call it that, the quantum field. Some terminology calls it the field of infinite possibilities, or the quantum. There's like many different terminologies for it, but my understanding of that realm, the quantum realm, is the realm of spirit. It's also my understanding of the divine. It comes from that. That would be the quantum field, the field of infinite possibilities. I have just an awareness of that field. That is also it's also the field of being, what we consider just pure being and pure awareness. Quantum science and quantum mechanics have called that, they have terms for it, but it's the field of infinite possibilities, or the quantum field. And again, that to me, in my understanding, is spirit. So I believe everything is spiritual, or my understanding is that everything is spiritual. So yes, we are doing a few different podcasts here on getting into this a little bit. And this one, I was planning to, I actually have a really interesting conversation, an interview that I've done that I'm going to be sharing with you on the next episode of the Lovecast. So next week's episode, I'm going to be sharing just a really, really fascinating individual that I have had the privilege of getting to know, and he's going to be our guest on the Lovecast. I can't wait for you to hear that. And I was going to actually share that this week, but I really felt like, based on how the conversation has been unfolding the last few weeks, regarding, just last week's episode and where that led, I felt like it was important for me to talk a little bit about Jesus. I know we talked about Jesus before. And again, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm not speaking about this topic from a vantage point of any particular religion. My understanding of the person of Jesus and the message of Jesus is that it really was not a sectarian or religious message at all. I used to believe it was, but I have since become aware that it's not actually, that wasn't the point at all. So I don't know what your background is. If you're listening to this, if you're a traditional Christian, that you go to church every Sunday, if you maybe come from an evangelical Protestant background, or maybe a Catholic background, or even if you're not a Christian at all, if you're just somebody who would consider themselves not to be religious at all, I understand that. So I just want you to understand that this is not coming from any one perspective, so to speak. This is just my observation and understanding, because it impacts my life, and it also very much impacts the work that I do. But, in my coaching work as a life coach, I'm not, some people like to claim they're a Christian coach, or they're a Christian this or a Christian that. I don't, because I don't think the label is meaningful or helpful. I don't, and again, that's because I believe Jesus was not representative of any one group. I think he was just a human being who showed us another way, or maybe the highest way, to be human. Yes, and that is, to be human, to be fully human, and to live out our full potential my understanding is the purpose of the divine. Is because human beings, this is even communicated in the Bible, that human beings were created in the image and likeness of God, meaning human beings are really image and likeness bearers. So we are a manifestation of this divine essence. So to me, to be human is to be an expression, a very image and likeness bearer of the divine. So when people talk about, oh, I'm just human, or Jesus is just a human, I'm not negating or downgrading or putting anybody else down when I say just human, or I don't use that term to be human in a way that demeans humanity as if we're weak or something. So when I talk about humanity, I really mean to say that human beings are profound when we're living out our most human essence. Okay, so enough of that. That's why I'm talking about this. Why I'm talking about Jesus. Why I'm talking about just understanding Jesus and the message from a place of what I believe to actually be accurate. Okay, because it has implications to our daily life, no matter what religion or your perspective. This has implications to all of us, I believe. Okay. So let's get into this. And I think it's really important to understand, if you're going to understand the life of Jesus or the message of Jesus, it's really important to understand the mindset, okay? The mindset of people in his day, his contemporaries, so to speak. So the Jewish people that he came to, that he was born in the midst of, that this was his culture, his community. The Jewish people were people that were oppressed. They had been living under political oppression when it came to the Roman Empire. They were very sectarian. So the whole idea, especially in ancient Judaism and in the Middle East 2,000 years ago, was very sectarian. The Jewish mindset was they did not associate, very tribal, did not associate with people outside of their tribe, so to speak. All the other people who were not Jewish were considered unclean, and they were considered to be just people that they were, lesser than them. And that's kind of the mindset of the people he lived among. There was a very well-developed theology, Jewish theology of his day, messianic theology, was the idea is that the Jews had been waiting for somebody to rescue them. And all throughout Jewish history, there were in their sacred writings, there were all these people that would rescue them from slavery. Moses, when the Jews were in Egypt, and were slaves basically in Egypt, they cried out for a deliverer, and then the story is that Moses came and rescued them, and and so forth and so on. Throughout the history of the Israelite nation, there were all these people who would have to come and remind them, of their place, of their significance, and rescue them from the trouble that they were in. And so this also developed into a kind of a prophetic, if I use that word, there was a belief that there would be a Messiah, a deliverer, somebody who would come and restore Israel to their greatness. Okay, because in Jewish history, Israel was a regional power, a very strong nation under King David. He was a very strong ruler, very, kind of consolidated the Jewish nation, and they had influence. We're a very powerful country under King David. But then, in the time since David, in the hundreds, thousands of years actually that had passed, the nation of Israel, the Old Testament nation, had declined significantly to the point where, the Roman Empire, which was the global empire at that time, had conquered them and dominated them, and the Greek Empire before them had dominated them. So they had been under oppression for a long time. And they were looking for the Messiah to come and basically restore them to greatness, kind of, instead of make America great again, it would be make Israel great again. It's kind of the idea. That's what they thought the Messiah was going to come to do. Okay. Because they were miserable and they felt miserable, just like most people. And again, we look back and go, oh, man, but honestly, like the human condition, most human beings are not happy with their life. If we're being completely honest, most human beings are not happy. And the Jewish people were not happy. They were looking for someone to come and rescue them. So Jesus comes on the scene here. Okay. And he is this, he's different. He's, some people would say he's enlightened. Some people would say, there's stories of him teaching at the age of 12. He's in the temple and he's having conversations with theologians and causing them to think. And, Some stories show that Jesus traveled extensively during his teenage and young adult years. I mean, there's some accounts where, again, these are extra biblical accounts. This is not in the synoptic gospels in the New Testament, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that Jesus was well traveled, that he traveled with he had a rich uncle, from what I understand, that traveled the Silk Road, which was a road of, very trade and commerce at that time between Israel and the East, the Far East. And we're talking about, places like Tibet and India and those places. And so there's some suggestion, and even from the writings in that part of the world, there's some documentation from that part of the world, from Tibet and those places, that actually indicate the visit of a notable figure, somebody that very much fits the description of Jesus in the first century, that came and was considered a savior and a king of his people, and that he was going to come back and educate his people, some of those things. So there's evidence. That's a whole other conversation, but there's a well-developed school of thought that actually believes that Jesus was well-traveled and picked up a lot of understanding from the Far East, from folks. Again, that connection was there early in his life, with the visiting of the traditional story, when Jesus, right after his birth, at some point after his birth, it doesn't actually say when, there were folks from the East that visited and kind of noted his birth as a significant birth. And anyway, that's a lot we could say about that. But I say all that to say that Jesus was this really, some people say, enlightened, spiritually wise, just somebody who was very significant, set apart in his day, and was somebody of renown, but not in the same way that maybe the religious leaders were in his day. He didn't have that kind of training. He didn't come from a family of prestige. He really came from a very poor lower middle class low class family, economically speaking, and was not anything really that a person on the outside would take note of. But what was interesting is about the message of Jesus, just to say, he obviously was living in a very different way. And there were stories and accounts of just miraculous things that he was able to do. And because of that, people learned to pay attention to him. People listened to his message. And again, like we mentioned in the last episode, his message was not about him. It was about this other kingdom, so to speak. But I wanted to bring this out because I don't think I mentioned it, but I think it's worth really comprehending a little bit, because it has an effect on our day-to-day life, okay? Because a lot of times we're conditioned very similarly to the ways that the folks in his day were conditioned, okay? It's the human condition. We're always wanting more. We're not satisfied with the life that we have, There's something about this life that we have that we just feel there's something not right about it. And so what human beings want, they want more. They want to expand. There's nothing wrong with, wanting to go beyond a sense of limitation. That's beautiful. But to be unimpressed with life, that's an issue. And the people in Jesus' day were really unhappy in their life. They were really struggling in their life, and they were looking for someone to fix it for them. They were looking for someone to bring in this, in their day, it was very political. So the Messiah is going to come in and bring up a political kingdom, a political entity, a nation, going to usher in a new country, or, with new, it was all very much politicized. But in the same way, you look at our society, you look at our world that we have today, and isn't that what people want? We want a just world, which is fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but we want to live in a world where there's justice. We want to live in a world where there's abundance. We want to live in a world where, we're taken care of and everything is well, and we can have a great life and enjoy our life. And we're looking for that. And so many people feel like they don't have access to that. They feel like victims to this thing called life, right? And we want someone to fix it for us. Yeah, that's the human condition. It's the victim mindset, and that was no different in Jesus' day. That was his context, right? So can you imagine what some of those people that started to look at Jesus and they go, man, could this be the guy we've been waiting for? Is this the Messiah that everyone's been prophesying about, talking about? Like some parts of him were appealing, and then there's other parts of him that were just too ordinary, right? Yeah, just too ordinary. And can you imagine the letdown that people must have felt when Jesus said, because he literally looked at a group of people and he told them point blank, he says, you know that kingdom you're looking for? You know, the long-awaited Jewish kingdom, you know, because that was a part of that. I mean, people were for hundreds of years crying out to God for deliverance and looking for this Savior to come and rescue them. And he says, yeah, you know that thing you're looking forward to? Now, I want you to grasp this. I want you to like just put yourself in their shoes. Imagine how you would feel. Jesus says, yeah, that kingdom you're looking for, it's already here. Yeah, it's in your midst. The kingdom is in your midst. And then he went on even to get very clear with them. He says, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's already here. It's been here. It's inside of you. Can you imagine the letdown? Like, you've been waiting how long for this guy to show up? And when he does show up, because Jesus would say, yeah, the one you're looking for, I am he. But if you listen to me, I can show you where you're going to get this new, you know, there was a lot of metaphors, living water. There was a metaphor of a kingdom. You know, there's metaphors of lots of things. But he would always use the same metaphor to say, yeah, it's inside of you. And I can show you, if you listen to me, like I can show you where to get it and how to access it. But it is found. Here's where it's found. It's in you. It's already here. And can you imagine just the people probably are like, you've really lost, like you're crazy. Like if you think this is it, what a letdown. I actually had someone say that to me before. You know, I was kind of explaining this concept to somebody before. And I just said, yeah, the very thing that people want to die and go to heaven because the stories of heaven that we've told are so grandiose and amazing. I said, but you know, from what I understand, the eternal life is right now. And even Jesus taught this, like it's actually right now, it's within us. And this lady looked at me and she goes, if this is it, like this is pretty lame. That's pretty lame. And yeah, can you feel that? It's pretty lame. Think about the people in Jesus' day when he said, yeah, the kingdom you're looking for, yeah, you've had it the whole time. It's within you. How lame is that? Especially if you've been suffering and just like your life has been one big struggle, and like to hear that, oh yeah, you have it. You already have it. That could be very discouraging, especially when you've been looking for someone to rescue you. And he's saying, yeah, I mean, you already got it. By the way, I need to leave, and you're going to go on and do greater things. That's me paraphrasing Jesus' entire ministry. He would tell us the good news. The kingdom is inside of you. And when you live by it, you can love people and you can do all kinds of things. And by the way, I'm going to go so that you can go on and do better things. Yeah, that wasn't really what they were looking for. He was a big disappointment to so many because of that very message. But to the people who were ready, and ready is a key word, to be empowered. Now that was fantastic news. To finally get to a point where you did not have to overthrow a government, because they were always revolting. The Jewish people were always revolting against their rulers. To get to a point where you didn't have to overthrow your government, you didn't have to, you didn't have to do anything. All you had to do was learn how to access this new realm, this new dimension of humanity from within. Well, that sounded too good to be true, but there were people who apprehended it. They got it, and it set them free. And it allowed them to realize that their life was extraordinary. Extraordinary. There was this guy, he was putting on a wellness clinic. This was actually not that long ago, but he was putting on this wellness clinic, and it was like a 3-day wellness clinic, and they were, really doing lots of things about helping people to get present and helping people to meditate and just, activities designed specifically for wellness. It was like a retreat, a 3-day retreat. So about 2 days into this retreat, this guy, one of the participants of this retreat, calls out the director, singles out the director and said, "Hey, can I have a word with you? Can I talk with you?" And the director says, "Sure," and they have a conversation, and the guy tells the director, he says, "Listen, I appreciate all you guys do. And, I know you're putting a lot of time and effort into this." He goes, "But if I could be completely honest, I know we're 2 days into this wellness retreat. And I know there's another day, there's a third day that we have to go. So I imagine that it could get a lot better. But if I'm being really honest here, I'm really just not, I'm kind of not happy with this." And he was just kind of, beating around the bush a little bit. He's like, I think I expected something different. And so, the director says, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What seems to be the problem?" And he's like, "Well, can I be honest?" He's like, "Yeah, please be honest." He said, "If I'm being honest, this is kind of boring, just to be honest. Like this workshop, it's kind of lame. If I'm being completely honest, it's really boring." And the director says, Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. Maybe you were expecting something different. What were you expecting by chance? And the guy says, "Well, your brochure, just based on your brochure says 3 days of an extraordinary 3 days," or something like that on the brochure. So I was expecting, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I guess I was expecting something extraordinary. And, the director says, No, you misunderstand the word. He said, let's look closer. Let's look at the brochure. It says extraordinary, but let's take the word apart. What is extraordinary? What does it mean? Extraordinary. Extraordinary. He said, "See, your problem is that you don't like your life. And because you're not enjoying your day in and day out life, you want something different. You want something beyond your ordinary life. So that's why you came here to this retreat, so you can escape your ordinary life." But then he says, "But that's the reason you're suffering, is because you have not learned how to appreciate and love your ordinary life, your day in and day out life. You're always complaining about something's not quite right. So you haven't discovered the miracle and the beauty that's, embedded in every moment of the ordinary life. So this retreat is about helping you settle into the ordinary. As a matter of fact, we're so big fans of the ordinary. We're giving you extra ordinary." We're giving you extraordinary. So you get it? Extraordinary is really just another way of saying extraordinary, because if you can become a person that learns how to love the ordinary and really get just milk the essence out of the ordinary moment by moment existence, your moment by moment life, if you can learn to love that, that's extraordinary. And that's an extraordinary life. And that's what we're here to teach you to do, to love the ordinary. So you get extraordinary these next 3 days. Don't you love that? I absolutely love that. But there is so much truth in that, isn't there? Yeah. Yeah. We're here to learn how to really enjoy this thing called life. And I got news for you. Life unfolds in the ordinary. That's what life's all about. Yeah, drinking coffee and making the bed and looking our partner deeply in the eyes and noticing them as they're talking to us and loving them and working through disagreements and, healing and doing our inner work and, being honest, acknowledging mistakes, all of those things, all of that is a part of the ordinary life, learning how to settle in and love the ordinary, the lot that we have been given. If you can touch a dimension of being beyond your just normal racket that goes on in the mind, yeah, you're going to learn to appreciate the ordinary, because that that essence, that dimension we're talking about that exists beyond the racket of the mind or the body, yeah, that's what Jesus was talking about. That's the kingdom of heaven that lives at the level of your own being within you. Yeah, that's what we do in coaching. We just, honestly, a lot of my work is about helping people move out of states of suffering, come out of the programming, the racket of the mind, of the subconscious, conscious mind, and really move and learn how to access a dimension of ourself that is beyond that. And that's how we learn to tap into that essence that's within us that gives us access to this miracle that we call life. To some people, that's really lame. That's really too simplistic. But to other people, it's life-saving. It's salvation. It's what gives you a reason to get up in the morning. And if that's what you're interested in, you're in the right place. And I appreciate you tuning in. Guys, thank you so much. Now, let me wrap this up by just letting you know that we have, I don't know if you heard about this, but in case you haven't, breaking news, we have a hotline. Isn't that good news? Isn't that fantastic that we have a hotline for the Lovecast, our very own hotline? Let me give you the number. It's 909-747-9648. Again, that's 909-747-9648. Please, 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 if you're listening to this, give it a call. Shoot a text. Let me know what you thought about this podcast. Let me know that you're here, you're listening. Even if you've reached out before, I'd love to hear from you. Just shoot me a text. Hey, listen to your episode. Appreciate it. Here's a thought. Here's a question. Or just say hi. Let us know where you're listening from. I'd always love to hear where the listeners are listening from. So 909-747-9648. You can send a text, or you can actually call and leave your own voicemail to be played on the show. So either way, I'd love to hear from you. And also, we are on iTunes. It really helps the podcast out. If you would rate and review this podcast on iTunes, would greatly appreciate that. Anyway, guys, until next time, thank you. Have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.